Welcome to the Explainer. So, when you picture an ancient Buddhist monastery, what exactly comes to mind? Probably some really serene, beautiful imagery, right? Silent meditation, absolute peace, monks sitting perfectly still under ancient trees. But what if I told you that right behind that serene surface, there lay an incredibly pragmatic, highly complex, and honestly, sometimes surprisingly gritty legal system? Well, let's dive into this. We are looking at a fascinating source text called the Ten Recitations Vinaya, and we're going to see how ancient monastic law actually handled the absolute chaos of real, everyday human life.
Let me hook you right away with a couple of bizarre, real-life case files pulled directly from our source text. If a monk falls down a well and accidentally lands on a woman, is he guilty of breaking his vow of celibacy? Or what if a forest demon literally forces him into a compromising situation? Now, these aren't just hypothetical thought experiments. These are actual cases brought before the ancient monastic court. It proves that this ancient code had to deal with some incredibly wild, complex, and sometimes kind of darkly comical scenarios. Section 1, Code of the Monastic Community, from micromanagement to macro law. So we're going to look at the 10 recitations Vinaya, but definitely not as some dry religious text. Instead, think of it as a highly sophisticated legal framework that governed literally every single aspect of ancient community living. Imagine our journey today as exploring a sort of legal thriller, a really fascinating exploration of jurisprudence, psychology, and intent. But to understand how they handled major crimes in the courtroom, we first have to understand how they handled the tiniest, most mundane details of everyday life. The law started with extreme mindfulness.
Section 2, the art of everyday mindfulness, the micro rules.
Let's transition over into the daily etiquette section. What's so incredible about this legal code is how it dictates the smallest physical movements to cultivate a hyper-aware state of mind. The text uses these beautiful poetic metaphors for everyday chores. For example, guard your bowl like your own eyes. The law explicitly states you can't just toss your begging bowl on the ground or up on a roof. You absolutely must protect it. And these rules extend to everything: how you wash your feet, how to gracefully open doors without banging them, and even how to sweep a room so you don't accidentally squash any bugs. The law is entirely designed to make you completely present.
And this everyday mindfulness builds into an incredibly detailed step-by-step procedure. Just imagine for a second that you are a newly arrived guest monk. The law dictates your exact protocol. You must snap your fingers or knock to allow insects to flee before entering. If there's no water around, you wipe your feet with dry grass or leaves. You wash your sandals in a very precise, mandated order: front, back, middle, and then the straps. And then you sit and quietly observe your surroundings. These micro rules aren't just about being polite. They're strict legal requirements that literally force an individual to anchor their mind completely in their present environment.
Section 3, Resolving Monastic Disputes. Order in the Sangha.
Now, let's shift our focus from personal mindfulness over to community order. How did an ancient monastery actually deal with rowdy neighbors or internal factions? Because monks weren't just meditating silently all day, they were living in tight-knit communities, which inevitably means they had complex interpersonal disputes. The text outlines really strict laws to prevent the community from splitting apart. It identifies 14 specific ways a community can fracture and 6 root causes of disputes. It even lays down the law on how you speak and sing. There are strict bans against preaching just to make a quick profit, and actual prohibitions against using mixed or ugly chanting styles that distract everyone else. The law fiercely protected the harmony of the group.
Section 4, Defining Monastic Crimes, the Legal Hierarchy. So, what happened when a dispute escalated into an actual crime? Well, they needed a macro level to this legal system, a strict categorization of offenses. The text outlines 5 strict categories, ranging all the way from minor wrongdoings up to major crimes. The absolutely crucial point here is the top category, parajika. This literally translates to defeat. These are the capital crimes of the monastic world. We're talking things like major theft, murder, or breaking the vow of celibacy. Committing a parajika offense resulted in immediate, permanent expulsion from the community. There was just no coming back from it.
But the law wasn't entirely ruthless, which brilliantly highlights the text's surprising psychological depth. The text outlines an actual insanity defense. It explicitly states that if a monk commits a parajika crime under extreme mental distress, what they termed madness, the law completely exempts them. This could be madness triggered by the sudden tragic death of their entire family, total financial ruin right before they became a monk, a severe elemental sickness of the body, or even overwhelming karmic retribution. If the mind is broken, the law shows mercy.
Section 5, Case Files, Intention versus Action.
the monastic courtroom.
Okay, now for the absolute best part of our explainer, the actual interactive case studies, straight out of the Vinaya, where the Buddha himself acts as the supreme judge. Let's see how you would rule on these. Case file number 1. Picture this specific, almost comical scenario detailed in the text. A monk is walking along, and suddenly a wild cow charges at him. He runs for his life, trips, and accidentally tackles a woman to the ground. Now, physical contact with a woman is strictly forbidden. So is he guilty of a severe offense and facing expulsion? What do you think the verdict should be based on the rules we've just learned?
The Buddha's verdict? Not guilty. This establishes a massive, absolutely crucial legal concept that we literally still use today, mens rea, or the guilty mind. The law states that because the monk had absolutely no desire or intention to touch the woman, he was just trying not to get trampled by a cow, there is no crime. The action happened for sure, but the mind was innocent.
Case file number 2 introduces some much darker, really high-stakes scenarios. The text records instances of nuns traveling when they are suddenly attacked by gamblers, dragged into a deep forest, or assaulted by mobs. In a society that highly prized physical purity, this very real question was brought to the court. If a nun is physically assaulted against her will, is she considered defeated and completely expelled from the holy order?
The Buddha's ruling here is incredibly nuanced and honestly deeply compassionate for the ancient world. The law distinguishes entirely between physical coercion and mental consent. The Buddha ruled that even if the physical act occurred, if her mind did not consent, if she did not, in the text's specific words, receive fine touch or feel desire, she is entirely innocent. She remains a pure, respected member of the community. Once again, intention is absolutely everything. The law firmly protected the victims of trauma. All right, let's move to case file number 3. This is a wild one, and it tests the absolute limits of this ancient legal code. There is a monk named Nandi who is meditating deep in a forest. A demon appears, shapeshifts into a beautiful figure, and completely shatters Nandi's concentration. He loses his mind to lust. The demon vanishes, and Nandi, still completely overwhelmed by this unnatural desire, commits a forbidden act with a dead horse he finds in the woods. This is a textbook, clear-cut Parajika offense. So, does he get expelled?
Well, immediately after the act, Nandi is overcome with intense heat, terror, and just instant regret. He realizes he's completely ruined his life. But instead of hiding it, he runs directly to the Buddha and confesses everything in front of the entire assembly. Because of his instant regret, his genuine fear, and his immediate honest confession, the Buddha ruled against full expulsion. He allowed Nandi to stay in the community, demoting him to the status of a beginner novice so he could relearn the path. This absolutely proves the law had an incredible capacity for rehabilitation, not just blind punishment.
Section 6. The spirit of Buddhist law, protecting the mind.
Let's bring this explainer to a close by summarizing the overall philosophy we've just uncovered. You might be wondering, why does all this ancient history matter to us today? Because the Vinaya wasn't just some brutal list of punishments for breaking the rules. It was actually a highly crafted psychological shield. Whether the law is telling you exactly how to wipe your shoes before entering a room, or it's judging a severe, complex crime of assault, the ultimate focus is always exactly the same: the purity and intention of the mind.
I want to leave you with this powerful, provocative question to really reflect on. Is a crime defined by the hands that commit it, or the mind that desires it? Ancient Buddhist law made its choice very clear centuries ago, laying the groundwork for exactly how we still view justice, intent, and human nature in our modern legal systems today. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I hope it leaves you curious to go out and learn even more.